The giant crystal towers of Kethvar Military Academy sparkled like diamonds under two bright suns. Hundreds of alien students gathered in the main hall, their strange voices creating a buzz of nervous excitement. Some looked like giant insects, others had blue scales, and a few seemed to be made of living rock. Commander Velden stood at the front of the room. He was tall and thin, with 4 arms and eyes like a praying mantis. His mouth parts clicked and whistled as he spoke, and a small device around his neck turned his words into the common galactic language that everyone could understand. "Today is a very special day," Velden said, though his tone suggested he was not happy about it. "For the first time ever, we will have students from a newly discovered world called Sol 3. The Galactic Council has decided to include these creatures in our training program." The alien students shifted uncomfortably. They had heard stories about Sol 3. It was classified as a death world, a planet so dangerous that most aliens could not survive there for even a few hours. The great doors at the back of the hall opened, and 3 figures walked in. They were smaller than most of the alien students, with only 2 arms and 2 legs each. Their skin was a pale brown color, and they moved with quiet confidence. The first human was named Kim Tae. He was not very tall, but he walked like a soldier. His dark eyes seemed to notice everything around him, and he carried himself with the kind of calm that comes from years of training and discipline. He had been a warrior on Earth, fighting in battles that would terrify most galactic species. Next to him walked Park So-young, the only female in the group. Her long black hair was tied back neatly, and she moved with the sure steps of someone who had climbed mountains and crossed dangerous rivers. She had spent years rescuing people from floods, earthquakes, and other disasters that regularly struck Earth. The third human was Lee Jun. His hands were rough and scarred from years of outdoor work. He had taught survival skills to Earth's military forces, showing them how to find food and water in places where nothing seemed able to live. "These humans," Velden continued, his voice full of doubt, "come from a world that is very different from ours. Their planet is full of dangers, storms that can destroy cities, ground that shakes and cracks open, and temperatures that can kill in minutes. Because of this, they have not had the chance to develop proper military skills like the rest of us." Many of the alien students nodded in agreement. How could beings from such a harsh world possibly know anything about real warfare? Their technology was primitive compared to the advanced weapons and armor used by galactic civilizations. "We have created a special program just for them," Velden announced. "The developmental combat track will teach them the basic skills they need to function alongside proper military students." Some of the alien students looked at the humans with pity. A blue-scale creature that looked like a walking fish whispered his friend, "I heard their whole planet tries to kill them every day. It's amazing they even learned to build spaceships." Park So-young heard the comment and turned slightly toward her 2 companions. Speaking in Korean, their Earth language, she said quietly, "They have no idea what's coming." Kim Tae and Lee Jun both smiled small, knowing smiles. They had read the files about this academy and its students. Most of these aliens came from peaceful worlds where the biggest dangers were minor storms or the occasional predator animal. None of them had ever faced the daily life-or-death challenges that every human child learned to handle. After the long speech ended, students began collecting their training equipment and room assignments. The humans were given the most basic gear, simple uniforms, basic tools, and outdated weapons that the academy used for beginning students. A small, bird-like creature with bright yellow feathers hopped over to them. "Hello," it chirped in a friendly voice. "My name is Kiptel. I'm from the Aviaran Republic. Don't feel bad about being placed in the beginner classes. The instructors here are really good at helping students who need extra time to learn." The other alien students nearby nodded sympathetically. A few patted the humans on the shoulders with various appendages, claws, tentacles, and rock-like hands. The remedial program has helped lots of students, added a crystalline being whose body sparkled in the light. Students from garden worlds sometimes need months just to learn how to hold a weapon properly. Kim Tae bowed politely in the traditional Earth manner. "Thank you for your kindness," he said in careful galactic common. "We will work very hard to learn." Lee Jun and Park So-young also thanked the alien students for their concern. Inside, all 3 humans were trying not to laugh. They had spent their lives on a planet where children learned to start fires with sticks, where teenagers regularly survived disasters that would destroy entire alien cities, and where adults trained by fighting in conditions that would be considered torture on most worlds. As they walked toward their assigned dormitory building, Park So-young spoke again in Korean. Tomorrow should be interesting. The alien students watched them go, feeling proud of themselves for being so welcoming to these poor, disadvantaged creatures from a savage death world called Earth. None of them suspected that they were about to receive an education in what real survival training actually meant. The morning sun was just starting to rise over the training grounds when Instructor Zalmoth arrived. He was made of living crystal, his body sparkling like a diamond as he moved. He came from a world with very strong gravity, which made him much stronger than most beings in the galaxy. His crystal face had no expression, but his voice was clear and commanding. Today, we start with basic movement training. Zalmoth announced to the group of students standing before him. There were about 30 alien cadets and the 3 humans. This course will test how well you can move your body and how strong you are. Humans, do not feel bad if you cannot finish it. Your bodies were not made for military work. The obstacle course spread out in front of them like a giant playground, but much more dangerous. There were tall walls to climb over, deep holes to jump across, heavy logs to carry, ropes to swing on, and narrow beams to balance across. It was designed to challenge the strongest and most skilled students in the academy. The alien students looked at the course with determination. They knew it would be hard, but they had trained for this moment. Kiptel, the small bird-like student, was first to try. His yellow feathers ruffled as he spread his wings and flew over the first wall easily. But when he reached the rope climbing section, his small claws could not grip properly. He struggled and slipped, finally making it to the top after several minutes of effort. Next came a student from the Terran species. These beings looked like humans made of living rock, very big and very strong. The rocky student smashed through barriers that would stop most other beings, but he moved very slowly. Each step took a long time, and by the time he finished the course, he was breathing hard from the effort. The Aquarian students did very well at the parts with water. Their fish-like bodies moved smoothly through the swimming sections. But when they had to run on dry ground, they gasped for air and moved awkwardly on their web feet. Other alien students tried the course with mixed results. Some were good at jumping, others at climbing, but none of them could do everything well. Then it was a human's turn. Kim Tae walked up to the starting line with calm confidence. He did not look nervous or excited. When the signal was given, he began to run at a steady pace toward the first wall. The wall was 3 meters high, too tall for most beings to simply jump over. But Kim Tae did not slow down. Just before reaching the wall, he planted his left foot firmly on the ground and used his right foot to push off the wall. His body flipped up and over the barrier in one smooth movement. He landed on the other side and kept running without breaking his pace. The alien students stared with open mouths. Park So-young was next. She approached the rope climbing section that had given Kiptel so much trouble. But instead of struggling like the bird creature, she grabbed the rope with both hands and pulled herself up so quickly that her movements were just a blur. Instructor Zalmoth looked at his timing device, shook it, and looked again. According to his instruments, she had just broken the academy record. Lee Jun made the entire course look like a fun game. He jumped over holes that required careful measuring by other students. He balanced on narrow beams like he was walking on solid ground. He carried heavy logs like they were made of feathers. The other students watched in amazement as he finished the course and was not even breathing hard. But what happened next shocked everyone even more. Park So-young walked back to the starting line. She took a piece of cloth from her pocket and tied it around her eyes so she could not see anything. Then she turned around so she was facing backward. "What are you doing?" asked Kiptel in confusion. "Showing you how to use your other senses," Park So-young replied in her careful galactic common. Then she began running the course backward and blindfolded. She moved slowly but with complete confidence. When she reached a wall, she felt it with her hands to judge its height, then climbed over. When she came to a hole, she listened to the echo of her footsteps to know how wide it was, then jumped across. She completed the entire course without seeing anything. The alien students were completely silent. Even Instructor Zalmatha's crystal body stopped sparkling for a moment. "That is not possible," Zalmath finally said. His voice sounded confused and a little scared. "The difficulty of this course is set for trained military professionals. It should challenge even advanced students." Lee Jun looked at the instructor politely. "On our world," he said in his slow, careful way, "children play games that are much harder than this course." The alien students looked at each other with worry. If human children played games harder than their military training, what did that say about human adults? The afternoon brought even more surprises. They moved to a classroom for survival basics, a course about how to stay alive in difficult situations. The instructor brought out the standard fire-making equipment, a small electronic device that was supposed to create sparks to light fires. But when he tried to use it, nothing happened. The device was broken. "Well," the instructor said, "I guess we will have to wait until tomorrow when the equipment is fixed." But Lee Jun stood up from his seat. "May I try something?" he asked politely. Before anyone could answer, he walked outside and gathered some dry grass and small sticks. He came back and sat on the floor. The alien students crowded around to watch. Lee Jun took one stick and made a small hole in another piece of wood. Then he began spinning the stick very fast in the hole, using his hands. After a few minutes, smoke began to appear. Soon, tiny sparks fell onto the dry grass, and suddenly there was a small flame. The alien students stared in complete amazement. They had never seen anyone make fire without technology. 3 weeks had passed since the humans arrived at the academy, and Instructor Velden was having a very bad day. He walked back and forth to his office, his insect-like mouth parts clicking loudly with worry and anger. Every teacher in the academy had sent him the same impossible reports. The humans were not just doing well in their classes. They were doing better than students who had been training for years. Kim Tae had broken 3 different strength records. Park So-young had completed advanced climbing courses that usually took months to master. Lee Jun had taught survival skills to other students that even the instructors did not know. "This cannot be right," Velden said to himself, his 4 arms waving in frustration. "There must be some trick. Maybe they are using secret technology that we cannot see." Commander Yitar sat behind her desk, watching Velden pace around the room. She was very old and very wise, and her crystal body sparkled with many colors as she thought about the problem. She had been running this academy for over 100 years, and she had never seen anything like this. "Maybe we were wrong about these humans," she said slowly. "Their planet is classified as a death world. Perhaps that means something more than we thought." Velden stopped pacing and stared at her. "Death world classifications are just numbers on a computer," he said quickly. "No species can actually become stronger just because their planet is dangerous. That is impossible." Commander Yitar was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, which was a strange sight on her crystal face. "If you are so sure, then let us test your theory. I think it is time for Corvin 7. Velden's mandibles stopped clicking. Every student at the academy knew about Corvin 7. It was a small moon where the final year students went for their last big test. The moon had air to breathe and was not too hot or too cold. There were plants and animals and fresh water. For galactic standards, it was considered a nice, easy place to practice survival skills. 2 days later, a big transport ship carried 42 students through space toward Corvin 7. 39 of them were alien students from different worlds, and they carried everything they thought they would need. Each student had a special suit to protect them from bad weather, a portable shelter that could be set up quickly, food packets that would last for weeks, and communication devices to call for help. The 3 humans sat quietly in the back of the ship. Each of them carried only a simple backpack with basic supplies. Kiptel, the bird-like student, looked at the humans with concern. "Are you sure you have enough equipment?" he asked. "This test is very important. We will be on the moon for 10 days. Kim Tae smiled politely. "We have what we need," he said simply. The ship landed on Corvin 7 under a bright, clear sky. The moon was beautiful, with green forests, clear streams, and gentle hills. To the alien students, it looked like a challenging wilderness. To the humans, It looked like a pleasant camping trip. Instructor Kexenael's voice came from speakers on all their communication devices. "Listen carefully," he announced. "This is your final survival test. You will be here for 10 days. We will give you points based on how well you manage your supplies, build your shelters, work together, and handle unexpected problems. You may begin now." The alien students immediately started unpacking their equipment. They had practiced this many times in classes. First, they would set up their communication arrays to stay in contact with each other. Then they would assemble their portable shelters following the instruction manuals. After that, they would organize their food supplies and set up their water purification systems. But the humans did something completely different. Kim Tae, Park So-young, and Lee Jun stood together and looked around the landscape with calm, experienced eyes. They did not start unpacking anything. Instead, they began talking to each other in Korean, their voices low and professional. Kim Tae asked, "Where's the water?" Park So-young pointed toward a line of trees in the distance. "There's a stream over there. The flow looks good." Lee Jun studied the sky and the clouds. "The weather is stable, but look at those clouds. It looks like rain in a day or two." While the alien students were still reading instruction manuals and trying to figure out how their equipment worked, the humans had already started building their camp. They did not use any of the fancy technology that the other students had brought. Instead, they used branches, leaves, stones, and other things they found on the moon. Within 2 hours, they had built a shelter that was better than anything the alien students were making with their expensive equipment. Kip Tell watched them work with amazement. "How do you know how to do that?" he asked. "Practice," Lee Jun replied simply, as he wove branches together to make a waterproof roof. The alien students were still struggling with their gear when the sky began to change. The clouds that Lee Jun had noticed were growing darker and moving faster. The wind started to blow harder. Then, without any warning, the storm hit. Rain began falling like bullets from the sky. The wind howled like a living monster. Lightning flashed across the dark sky, and thunder shook the ground. The alien students' expensive equipment began to fail almost immediately. The storm came faster than anyone expected. The weather computers in space had made a mistake. They did not see the dangerous clouds building up high above Corvin 7. What started as a gentle wind quickly became a screaming monster that threw rain like sharp stones across the moon's surface. The alien students' expensive equipment began breaking almost immediately. Their special suits that were supposed to protect them from bad weather filled up with fog, so they could not see. Their portable shelters, which looked so strong in the academy, fell apart like paper toys when the wind hit them. Their communication devices stopped working when water got inside the electronics. Fear spread among the alien students like a disease. Kip Tell huddled under a torn piece of fabric with 3 other bird-like students. His yellow feathers were soaked, and he was shaking with cold and terror. "The emergency signal," he cried over the noise of the storm. "Why is it not working?" "Water got into it," gasped Velnox, a student made of living crystal. His normally beautiful, sparkling body now had ugly cracks running through it because the temperature kept changing too fast. "All our machines are broken." The storm was so violent that several students got lost. They had been with their groups when the rain started, but the wind and darkness made it impossible to see where they were going. Zixral, a young fish-like student, thought he had found safety in what looked like a small cave. But as the storm continued, water began rushing into the cave faster and faster. Soon he was trapped inside with the water level rising toward the ceiling. He could not swim out because the current was too strong. 3 students from the rocky Terran species found themselves stuck on top of a small hill. Their stone-like skin protected them from the rain, but they were getting weaker and weaker as their body energy ran low. They could not move in the storm without falling and getting hurt. But at the humans' camp, everything was different. Kim Tae worked calmly in the storm, digging small trenches around their shelter to guide the water away. The rain poured off their roof made of branches and leaves, but not a drop got inside. Park So-young sat under the dry shelter with a piece of bark, drawing a map of the area with a burned stick. She said to her companions in Korean, "We need to make teams of 3 people. Then she switched to the Galactic Common Language, so the alien students who had managed to reach their camp could understand. We look for missing people first. Then we build better shelters for everyone. About 15 alien students had made it to the humans' camp when their own equipment failed. They sat inside the warm, dry shelter and stared at the 3 Earth people with amazement and growing respect. A tall, thin student with insect-like features began to protest. But the storm is too dangerous. Lee Jun looked up from checking a compass he had made from a piece of metal and some string. His voice was calm and matter-of-fact. "It is just weather," he said simply. "On Earth, we call this Tuesday." The alien students stared at him. On their peaceful worlds, a storm like this would be considered a major natural disaster that would make news broadcasts for weeks. But these humans acted like it was a normal, everyday thing. Park So-young stood up and put on a coat made from animal hide that she had somehow created in just a few hours. "I will take the first search team," she announced. She walked out into the storm like she was going for a pleasant walk. The alien students watched through the shelter opening as she disappeared into darkness and rain. They could not believe anyone could survive out there. 20 minutes later, she returned carrying Zixral on her back. The fish-like student was unconscious and barely breathing. Park So-young had somehow found his flooded cave, dove into the dangerous water, and pulled him out. She began giving him medical treatment, using plants she had found on the moon. Kim Tae took the second search team. He moved through the storm like it was nothing, following tracks that no one else could see. He found the 3 Terran students on their hill and guided them safely back to camp. His calm confidence made the frightened students feel safe for the first time since the storm began. Lee Jun stayed at the camp and organized the construction of more shelters. Using only materials found on the moon, branches, stones, mud, and leaves, he taught the alien students how to build structures that were stronger than their expensive equipment. His techniques seemed impossible, but they worked perfectly. As the storm continued through the night, something amazing happened. The alien students, who had looked down on humans as primitive and backward, now turned to them for leadership. The same students who had offered sympathy to the disadvantaged Deathworlders now hung on every word the humans said. Kiptel, his feathers finally dry, looked at Kim Tae with obvious admiration. "How do you stay so calm?" he asked. Kim Tae was teaching a group of students how to start a fire with wet wood. He looked up and smiled. "On our world," he said, "if you panic during a storm, you die. So we learn not to panic." The alien students realized they were learning more about real survival in one night than they had in years of academy classes. On the 4th day after the storm, the rescue ships finally arrived at Corvin 7. The pilots expected to find scared students hiding in broken shelters, waiting to be saved. Instead, they found something that made them question everything they thought they knew about survival training. All 42 students were not only alive, but they looked healthy and happy. They were living in a camp that was so well-built it looked like professional engineers had constructed it. There were strong shelters, clean water systems, food storage areas, and even recreational spaces where students were sitting together and talking. Commander Yitar stepped off the rescue ship and walked to the camp with her mouth open in amazement. Her crystal body sparkled with confusion as she tried to understand what she was seeing. The alien students who had arrived on Corvin 7 as individuals from different species were now working together like they had been teammates for years. Students who had never spoken to each other before the storm were now sharing knowledge and helping each other with daily tasks. Chief Instructor NAL Vex held a scanning device that measured how efficiently the camp used its resources. He looked at the numbers on his screen, shook the device, and looked again. "This is impossible," he muttered. "According to these readings, they're using their resources better than our best theoretical models say is possible." Kiptel, the small bird-like student, flew over Commander Yitar with his yellow feathers practically glowing with excitement. "Commander, you have to see what the humans taught us about making water safe to drink. We do not need any machines, just understanding of science and nature." All around the camp, alien students were eager to show off the new skills they had learned. Zixral, the fish-like student who had nearly drowned in the cave, demonstrated how to send messages using reflected sunlight. The big Rocky student from Terran showed how to build structures using techniques Lee Jun had taught them. Even the Crystal Bay students had learned new ways to solve problems by copying human methods. But the biggest change was not in what the alien students could do. It was in how they looked at their human classmates. The pity and sympathy they had shown before was completely gone. Now their eyes were full of respect and eager curiosity whenever they looked at Kim Tae, Park So-young, or Lee Jun. Instructor Veldon approached Commander Yittar privately. His insect-like features were twisted with confusion and frustration. "I do not understand any of this," he admitted quietly. "Their technology is still primitive. Their planet is still classified as barely suitable for life. How can they have military and survival skills that are better than our most advanced training programs?" Park So-young was walking nearby and heard the conversation. She turned toward them with a small, knowing smile. "Commander," she said politely, "may I ask you something? What is the death rate on your home planet?" Veldon looked confused by the strange question. "Death rate?" he repeated. "Zephyrians almost never die before we reach our natural age of 300 years. Maybe 1 out of every 10,000 of us dies each year, and that is usually just from getting old." Park So-young nodded thoughtfully. Then Kim Tae joined the conversation, his voice quiet but serious. "On Earth, about 57 million humans die every year," he said. "They die from wars, diseases, earthquakes, floods, storms, accidents, violence, and hundreds of other causes. Our planet tries to kill us every single day of our lives." Lee Jun walked up and added his own thoughts. "We do not learn military skills in schools like this academy," he explained. "We learn them by living long enough to become adults." The silence that followed was so complete that they could hear the wind blowing through the trees. Commander Yittar and Instructor Veldon stared at the three humans as the full meaning of their words sank in. These humans had not just survived their childhood. They had thrived in conditions that would kill most galactic species in minutes. Every human who made it to adulthood was already a survival expert by galactic standards. 1 month later, news spread across the entire galaxy. The Galactic Educational Consortium sent official messages to every military academy, university, and training center in known space. The Primitive Species Integration Program was being completely changed. Instead of teaching basic skills to disadvantaged humans, the program would now focus on having humans teach advanced survival and combat skills to the rest of galactic civilization. Within 1 week, applications began arriving from military academies on 50 different star systems. Every school in the galaxy wanted human instructors. Kim Tae, Park So-young, and Lee Jun found themselves promoted from remedial students to senior teachers. Their classes had waiting lists that stretched for years into the future. The first lesson in their new curriculum was always the same. Survival is not about having the best equipment. It is about knowing what to do when your equipment breaks. As Kim Tae watched his newest class of alien students struggle to start a fire with sticks, he smiled and said quietly in Korean, "They have no idea how easy their lives have been." Park So-young chuckled softly. "We should teach them advanced techniques next semester." The galaxy had finally learned an important truth. When your world spends millions of years trying to kill you, you do not need training to become dangerous. You just need to survive long enough to leave home.